From that moment on, I just felt an intense level of guilt. Like I didn't rise to the occasion, but also like, how was I supposed to know?
What I learned from that is that you just have to be prepared for your heart to be broken. Like, that can't be a surprise.
Welcome to a conversation between two friends.
This is Alice.
And I'm David.
And this is Truthfully Yours.
We are by no means experts or teachers, just speaking honestly within the bounds of friendship. If you found your way here, maybe there's something in that honesty meant for you too.
We invite you to lean in, and perhaps you'll recognize your own journey in ours.
This is a conversation about the weight of caring and the cost of giving that leads to burnout. David and Alice share how heavy emotions can lead to guilt and broken hearts. This is Truthfully Yours. Now here's Alice and David.
I think my purpose came from when I was probably about 12 years old, when my mom had first been diagnosed with breast cancer. I witnessed my mom become really sick, really, really sick. And as a kid, I didn't know what that meant. All I knew was that mom was going to have to spend time in the hospital. So me and my sisters were going to go to stay with my grandma. And she had Snickers bars and Cokes in a mini fridge and Nintendo. It was heaven. All the little boy could need to be happy. And, we'd stay for a few days. We'd come home and our laundry was being done. The food was being cooked. Didn't seem like anything changed. My mom maybe a little bit slower. And then fast forward, about 8 years or so. I was 20 years old when she died. This April, it'll be 20 years with my mom in my life, 20 years without. She passed peacefully in her sleep at night when I was off at college. And we've discovered at that point that she had written a diary over the last decade or longer, including some personal letters to each of us kids. And one thing that she wrote about was her experience going through chemotherapy back when I was 12. And she described how chemotherapy hurt her fingertips. Like even touching things with her fingertips was so excruciatingly painful. Like tying her shoes, she couldn't do it. And I remember her washing the dishes. I remember her doing laundry. I remember her cooking food, like all of these things, and not ever being aware that she was going through the pain. She kept it inside. She kept it hidden. And when my mom passed, it was sudden. She had been sick, but she beat cancer. So it was a bit of a surprise for all of us. We thought she was, Iron Lady. Nothing would beat her. And she was young. She was 45 when she passed away. So that, I think, spurned a purpose in me where I was like, how could I become the man that I felt like I should have been at 12 years old to take care of my mom? From that moment on, I just felt an intense level of guilt. Like I didn't rise to the occasion, but also like, how was I supposed to know? And from that moment, like 20-something on, I knew I wanted to become the man that could have made a difference in my mom's life back then. So now I take care of, cancer patients every day. And it's a privilege to help ease their pain and suffering. And in a way, I think, heal the pain and suffering that my mom went through that just wasn't aware of. What got me into business in the first place and why that was my first direction. I had just graduated college. I started college very young and finished early, and I still wasn't out of the closet, so I didn't know what to do with my life. And so my mom, at that point, trying to be really helpful, was like, well, David, I know you like sports because I grew up playing baseball. She's like, maybe you could open a sporting goods store. So go into business. And she's like, I know you like music because I do play the piano. And she's like, maybe you could open a music business. And so just basically not having a good idea at all, I went into business. It was never felt like a calling or never felt like anything that I wanted to do. Honestly, marketing classes were really hard because you were given a product and then figure out how to sell it. I've never been interested in selling people something they don't need. It feels like taking advantage of them. And so I didn't love business, but I got a degree out of it, and then I finished school and ended up working landscaping for many years, which is a good job, physical labor. So I always felt like in decent shape and got to work outside with plants and work with people. But I never felt that like it was my calling. It was my purpose. And I remember the day that I pivoted to healthcare. I worked as a CNA, and for those of you who don't know, that's a nursing assistant. So basically, you do all of the jobs no one wants to do. It's the bedpans, the urinals, help people feeding with their meals, and I worked in a dementia care center, and so people at that time in their life preferred to just sit in their shit and piss and not be cleaned up, and they would fight you tooth and nail just to try to help them clean up,
Mm-hmm.
but that's part of the job, and I loved it. I felt like I had boundless energy to take care of these people, and I had so much empathy, so much love to give, and I felt like I was really good at it. And then from there, I went into nursing school, graduated, and I started my first job as a nurse. And after a year or so, I was really comfortable, getting really good at my job. I started to think about things more on a bigger scale. And we were slowly being cut down in terms of staffing. When we don't have that extra nurse anymore, you just are expected to find a way. So now we have less staff. Someone's calling. They're like, hey, I used the bedpan and I'm sitting on it. I need someone to come off. Well, all of us are busy. Like, with a few hours of work to do, and this person's supposed to just sit there, like, it's not okay. And it really burnt me out really quickly.
When you get hit with disillusionment, I'm more concerned of what are we doing for ourselves and for others who are in that burnout stage, because I've been burnt out for, long stretches of time, years, that I can't recover from.
Yeah.
When you're burnt out, you're not motivated. So then, you have to find something to motivate you, and that's really hard when all you want to do is rest.
Right. Yeah. I guess I think of it as an acceptance of reality, how I have come to see it. There is a certain role for every single human being in this ecosystem. It's like human nature, just like nature, right? Like the rain fuels the grass grows, feeds the animals grow, take care of, whatever else, they become game for a larger animal, whatever. It's a cycle of life. And I think that human nature is very much the same. We need takers and we need givers because we have to have balance. And so for me, it's just this acceptance that there is a role for every human being. And while I can't fix systemic problems and systemic disillusionment and the really shitty problems of the world, I can control what I can control.
Mm.
And that's what I choose to do with my life. And I've chosen the role that I would have chosen all along. Even though maybe somewhere a millionaire is laughing at me, ha ha ha, they're accepting their fate and I'm going to earn more money. As much as maybe that life would be easier, having more money around would be really nice. But I wouldn't ever choose that life. And so I think those people are necessary to complete the ecosystem. But I wouldn't want that job. I would want the job that I'm doing. And it just gave me such a peaceful feeling since I hadn't felt in a long time.
Yes. I've had this conversation with people before because I do feel strongly called to help people. So a lot of my life has been dedicated to helping people, and it doesn't have to be grand gestures, right? At all.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's pulling over to the side of the road when you see a car, a driver in need, and you can tell that, they need to get their car out of the road. And it's just enough of us pull over, push it to the side, and then you go about your day, right? And then there's bigger gestures people can do. However, somebody was like, well, what purpose does that fill? When I go on some of these service trips that I go on, it's not like it's going to make that much of a difference. And my reply is always the same. It does make a difference. It does make a difference to that person or that family that you help. And that hopefully it can ripple out from there.
Yes.
When you're talking about stars in the galaxy and, how it all plays a role, I think of it more like this interconnectedness that we all have. We are responsible only for the circle of influence that we have that we can make an impact on. And sometimes that circle of influence consists of the people that you see daily, coworkers, friends, family, neighbors. And other times you stumble upon a circumstance, a situation that calls out for you to participate in for a brief moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think about the greed that's happening, like you were talking about, and the evils in the world. And even though I don't understand it, and even though it really makes me mad, I also think it must serve a purpose in some way that I don't know, that only the future will show us later. But I can only think about what is my part to play in it right now.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time when I was probably 20 years old, and I was volunteering at a homeless shelter in the University District for teenagers. And we weren't trained in being caseworkers, but a lot of what we did was build relationships with these homeless kids. And there was a young kid I met. I was probably 20 years old, 21 years old. He was probably like 13, 14, and his situation was really bad. I was supposed to meet this kid because I told him, hey, let's meet for lunch. And I just thought that that was very purposeful because here's a safe person that they can spend some time where they don't have to be in fight or flight mode.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid did not show up. And most of the time, these kids showed up because if you say, hey, my tree anywhere you want, they're going to show up because they're used to going to like soup kitchens. And he did not show up. And I was so heartbroken over this because my immediate concern is, okay, did something happen safety-wise? Or did he get drugged out somewhere? And I remember talking to the director of the shelter at the time about this. And then they kind of just said, this happens, but you're not responsible for that person showing up or not. But in my heart, I felt like I kind of was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so bummed. It felt personal to me. And it was less about the kid and more about feeling like I had failed this person somehow, which is kind of funny that now that I'm thinking about it, that I would feel that way. But that's how I felt at the time. And the director basically said, could it be that maybe this person found himself in a situation and that it was maybe best that you did not meet them for your safety? And I had never thought about it like that because there had been encounters where volunteers met up with kids and, safety was an issue. In fact, I remember, just as a side note, I wanted to provide a Christmas for these kids. So we held a Christmas party at Rob's apartment that was like a mother-in-law, right?
Yeah.
So the kids knew where he lived, all of them. And it's not far from the U District. It's just a very short bus ride or a walk a couple miles away. Part of me, like my gut instinct said, this might not be a good idea. And then the very next week, all our Christmas presents were gone.
Wow.
There's no way for knowing for sure,
Yeah.
who did it. But it's kind of one of those mother-in-laws that it's not quite obvious it's a mother-in-law. Nobody attacked the old senior citizen lady living upstairs. But we'll never know.
Talk about disillusionment.
Working in those kind of environments, what I learned from that is that you just have to be prepared for your heart to be broken. Like that can't be a surprise.
Yeah.
And then you do get disillusioned because I'm putting my full heart into this, wanting to make an impact, wanting to make a difference. Then something like that happens, or the kid that you've been working with for months decides, oh, I'm going to go back and, to my pimp and do drugs.
Yeah.
It's really hard to deal with that. Because I'm a pretty empathetic person, I start taking on other people's emotions that I shouldn't. And so I remember feeling burned out for a long time. And then I stopped volunteering because it was just too much. It was too emotionally tough for me.
Yeah. If you look at the universe as a whole and how we all each play our parts and how we are all each necessary, there is hope to be found there. And I don't know, just sort of like a deeper light that shines that gives me the strength to go on. And I think that's so important. I can't make systemic change in my society and my culture and in the world. I can't. But I can work along the fringes and make someone's day better.
Well, I'm very glad that you are a giver. We need more givers and less takers. In an ideal world, the givers would learn how to be receivers more because givers tend to just give and they tend not know how to receive. In the takers, it would be nice if they learn how to give more so that they can see that when they give, that the universe gives back to them even more.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, subscribe to Truthfully Yours wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love for you to share this with someone who might need to hear it. New episodes weekly on Thursdays. For more about the show and Alice and David, visit truthfullyyours.com.